Have you? Oh my goodness.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the place where you get to call and talk to two real trans people. Yes, that's right. I think last week I said farm-raised trans people about all the questions you have, anything and everything trans. So if you maybe have a trans kid and you're a little nervous about transition care, or maybe if you just aren't sure how trans healthcare works altogether, we would love to hear from you and answer all of your questions. I am your main host during the ship with you today, Arden Hart, and with me today is a very special guest, Abigail Thorn. Hi, Abigail.
Hello. It's lovely to be here. By the way, can I immediately apologize for the fact that I came to this stream extremely overdressed? It's evening here in the UK, and I went for like full on date night glam. I didn't quite realize that the kind of the vibe you were going for was much more American casual. But I suppose it's not every day that you get to be on stream with Arden Hart. So,
oh my gosh, I'm gonna like fan out. No, you look lovely. Love the lip color. It's awesome. So definitely do not apologize. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure our entire audience is obviously going to know who you are. You are somewhat of a superstar in the trans community, but under the chance there are maybe some cis people who don't know you in the audience. Would you care to explain what you do?
Yes, I am an actress and a YouTuber. I'm based in London. I am the creator of Philosophy Tube, which is an educational web show that has an audience of about 1.3 million. And I'm also the creator of The Prince, which is a London theatre show which has won an Offie, an Off West End award, and has been nominated for another one. And I just found out today has also been nominated for 3 Broadway World Awards.
Oh my God, that's
I know.
so
I was very surprised.
incredible.
One of my producers just texted me earlier on this afternoon and was like, "Hey, you've been nominated for 3 Broadway World Awards, including like Best Lead Actor." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's incredible! Thank you very much." So yes, I'm an actress, and also I have a silly little YouTube show that people like to watch.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. And if I remember correctly, you said at the end of your last video that the film version of the play will be available on, was it Curiosity Stream soon for you?
It'll be on Nebula soon. I think the plan is Q1 next year. I know that Nebula want to have a big premiere to launch it and have a big kind of red carpet party. That was going to happen in January, but I have recently been offered a role in something. I can't say what it is, but haven't signed the contract yet. But if that goes ahead, then I'll be filming throughout January and some of February. So we may have to push the premiere back to Feb. But Q1 next year is the plan to launch. The film version of The Prince. I haven't seen it yet, but some people have said that who have seen it, they said that it's looking good. So.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so exciting. Well, I hope everyone who's here definitely goes and checks out your stuff and is ready for that when that drops. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. We did a poll last week for our audience, if we want to bring that up. So our poll was very lukewarm because we did a couple of spicy and salacious ones the past couple of weeks. We were just, testing the waters for how our audience is feeling. How are you feeling after the election? Your options were great, which got 9%, terrible at 7%, cautiously optimistic at 74%. Love to see it. Or other, comment at 10.
I'm curious to hear what the people feeling other were feeling. Cautiously pessimistic?
Probably somewhere along there. I mean, I know there are definitely still concerns about the way the outcome of the election could impact the legislative season going forward. TACIS has already floated a really horrific House bill, pretty much what we expected, defining giving transition care to minors as child abuse. I believe there was something about trafficking in there as well, though I don't want to talk too much ahead of myself before I read like the full text of the bill. If you follow Erin in the Morn over on Twitter, I know she's got a link to the full text bill, I think, somewhere. So that would be a high recommendation if you're interested in seeing where that goes. But yeah, I feel like this is honestly how most people are feeling, and definitely how I'm feeling. I was expecting the outcome of the U.S. election to be significantly worse, monumentally worse than it was. And it was pretty okay. I think that there's hope that we can, pump the brakes on any bad stuff before it gets too far, at least for the next couple years. So I don't know how plugged into that.
That seemed to be the impression I got from a lot of my American friends. They said, "Oh, we were expecting this to be really bad, and it's only kind of bad." And I was like, "Okay, well done."
Yeah, we definitely overturned, some expectations for projections for how this election would go. So that's outstanding. Really,
and as I understand it, the American right spent a lot of money on anti-trans messaging, which didn't really translate, which is maybe cause for cautious optimism.
Yes, I do think so. I mean, so I think with the conservatives and the religious right, it is often their pocketbook is what will motivate them. And so hopefully, as you're saying, spending all this money on this advertising and not having it really amount to results could impact them. I know they're already kind of loading up the legislative session to attack trans people, but it remains to be seen if it's going to be...
make it too easy for us.
Yes, naturally, of course. They got to keep the activists on their toes. But there are so many people who I think, based on the results, have got fuel in their tank and they're ready to, meet those bills on the front lines. So hopefully we won't see too many of them get through. But that has been last week's poll. So why don't we bring up this week's poll, which will be very relevant to our guest here today. Okay, so the full text reads, while medicine and diagnostic terms like gender dysphoria have done a lot to establish the importance of trans healthcare in public consciousness, they've also been highly prohibitive in many ways. What ought the future of trans medicine and diagnoses to look like? Your option 1 is informed consent clinics with focuses on bodily autonomy. And option 2, I'm fine with the current system. Option 3, better and newer medical diagnostics. Or option 4, degenerates don't deserve healthcare. Obviously, we're always a little, we like to instigate a little bit with our poll options, but yeah, I don't know how, I'm sure you have some thoughts and feelings, Abigail, on that one.
Yeah, I do. So listeners, if you weren't aware, my most recent video, the most recent episode of Philosophy Tube was about the British healthcare system and the collapse of institutions and systems more broadly, and in particular, the case study that we used was the British trans healthcare system and its treatment of me. So I know where I stand on this. I think possibly that second choice there, I'm fine with the current system. I think you're going to have different views depending on whether people are voting from Britain or the US, because there are parts of the US, as I understand it, where things are, compared to the UK, amazing. But perhaps the Americans don't feel that way. I don't know. Do we want to get into this now, or do we want to save it until we start getting results in?
Well, we could get into it a little bit now. I think you're definitely right that there are parts of the U.S. that are very. We have such a disparate system. It's so just scattered in its efficacy across the board. But I think it's a little bit more unified and maybe a not so great way in the UK. But yeah, I would love to hear you get into it.
Yeah. I mean, in the sense that an absence of healthcare is sort of a unified result. Yes. As I detailed in the video, I'll summarize quickly here. The UK systematically illegally denies healthcare to trans people on a national scale, and waiting lists are kind of decades long. And the NHS has known about this for a long time. The reason for these delays is because specific senior administrators in the NHS refused to implement solutions that other countries already have that would solve it, because they are covering their own asses and they don't want to be held accountable for the patients that have died as a result of their decisions. So things are pretty bad here. So as I say, I think I know which way I'm going to answer this particular poll, but I'll be interested to see which way the listeners go.
Yeah, I think it is definitely an interesting. I almost thought when I was trying to think of a poll for this week, I wanted to tie it into your more recent video of comparing the US and the UK healthcare systems. Because, I mean, although I live in Texas, I'm in Austin, Texas. And so I actually have a wealth
People's
of options.
Republic of Austin. I love
Yes.
Austin.
Yes, Austin's lovely. It's wonderful, and I have
Austin's
such great
so good.
healthcare.
I really,
Yeah.
really, I would love to go back to Texas. I used to date a girl from Texas years and years ago, so I've been all over Texas, mainly
Yeah.
Houston. But I really enjoyed it, and I would love to go back.
Well, I'm sure Texas would love to have you. Austin is an outstanding city, and like I'm saying, in those metropolis areas, we definitely have access to healthcare. But as soon as you get a little bit out of the country or out of the major city, that it starts to get more inaccessible. I know I go to an informed consent clinic, and I'm able to access even the pellet form of hormone therapy, which is like not very ubiquitous, even in informed consent clinics across the U.S. But then there are
in the UK, you cannot get injectable estrogen, even if you go private. It's just banned. They just won't let you have it, and it's like. There's so many things like that where it's like, even if you go private, still the lawyer's like, nah, you can't have that, fuck you. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, lads, there's just no... Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Are we allowed to swear on this show?
Oh, no, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I swear all the time. Can't stop myself.
Fuck for that, right? Okay. Sick.
Yeah. No, it's definitely... it's weird that that's true too, because I know for me, I had to go on injectables or the pellet because my body had, and this happens to a lot of trans people, the first pass effect where your body will, in the liver, convert an estradiol tablet into estrone, which is a significantly weaker form of estrogen. And that was a huge issue for me. My estrone levels were off the charts, almost dangerous, but my estradiol, the one that actually estrogenizes your body, was very low. So without this form of healthcare, I would be seeing no effects of my hormones. It's really a shame to see.
It's why you got to take the ones that tell you to swallow and you put them under your tongue and let them dissolve. Also, I've been told. I've actually never publicly confirmed that I'm on any kind of medical care because, okay, so listeners, here's something quite funny. Before the show started, Arden was messaging me like, yeah, I'm really happy to have you on, and I'm really excited. And I had to text her and the producer and be like, okay, here is a list of things that I never discuss publicly. Like, here's my rider. I want like a dressing room full of M&Ms and white lilies, and like here's 20 things I can never talk about. So I never talk about my family in a way that identifies them. I never identify any of the people that I date. What else? There's certain other people that I never ever discuss. And also I never talk about my medical care ever, which made this like previous video a challenge because I had to discuss it without specifically saying anything I have or have not done. So I've never even publicly confirmed that I'm on hormones. Sometimes I get messages from people being like, tell me about your hormone doses, and I'm just like, who told you I'm on hormones? I just woke up like this. My body just did this one day. It's fine.
Yeah. That may well be like a more responsible way to handle things, because I mean, definitely everything affects everybody differently. I knew, I'm sorry, we're on a bit of a delay, so it makes it a bit tough. But also I knew, even before I came up publicly, that if somebody says to me, hey, like, can you tell me about hormones, or can you tell me about voice training, or can you tell me even the stuff about like makeup or where you buy your clothes, if I say, hey, this is what I did, then I'm going to get 1,000 people saying, oh, Abigail Thorn says you have to do this in order to be like an authentic trans person. And I know that would happen because I've seen it happen to other trans creators. So I just don't talk about it. Yeah, that totally makes sense. If anyone's thinking I'm saying you have to take pellets to be a real trans person, that is not what I'm saying. Just put that message out there. That is just what I had to do for my health. But yeah, I think it is interesting to see how disparate access to care is across the U.S. And I think the informed consent clinics just make the most sense. One thing I think that you beautifully pointed out in your video, not to spoil too much for the audience, is just the way that very much the same procedures can be accessed by cis people simply by saying, I want this, to their doctor. And it is so easily accessible to them for so many things. And that is definitely the same here. A lot of the things that we still struggle to get. Yeah.
That's what gets me is they're about to change the rules here in the UK so that cisgender women who go through menopause can buy HRT from a pharmacy without a prescription, without even going to see a doctor. And I emailed like the British medical authorities being like, hey, this is really good news. This is really, really going to help a lot of people. When are you going to extend the same thing to trans people? And they're just like, why not? It's like, it's the same stuff, man. It's the same stuff.
Yeah. Yep. It's really unfortunate. And I would like to think that we would see an end to that eventually, but to be completely honest, I mean, I always try to balance this with our audience of like the honest reflection of the situation as it stands currently, with not trying to be, you know, I don't want to send you all into a big pit of despair, but like I really don't see that changing significantly in the near future. And if I'm wrong, I would love to be proven wrong. I don't really see anything coming down the pipeline for that.
I think at the moment, the UK, the senior administrators of the NHS are particularly obstinate, and I think, probably being realistic, things are likely to get worse before they get better, in particular for trans children. The new NHS proposed service specification for trans children is absolutely abhorrent. It's really, like, they're talking about, you know, restricting social transition to you can't do that until you have a doctor's permission, which is just ridiculous. I mean, like, how can you say to a child, you're not allowed to get a haircut or change your name or have a nickname until a doctor says you can? It's unenforceable apart from anything else. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just a way to kick trans people. And I think part of the problem is I have a forthcoming article in a parliamentary journal here called Chamber, which talks about this. I think part of the problem is that everyone in charge of trans healthcare in the UK is cis, every single one of them. And they are, in particular, the kind of cis. So I don't know what you think about this, Arden, and what the chat thinks about this. I think the problem with some cis people, is that they don't realize they're cis. They think that they're just normal, and that trans people are like, oh, well, they're just, I guess, like me, but a little bit weird. And it's like, no, man, we're not like you. You're not normal, and we're deviant. We're normal. We're all normal. Get over yourself. I think in particular, people have this idea that all children are cis until they become trans. And it's like, no, man, where do you think trans people come from? We don't spring out of holes in the ground. Like, I am trans. I was a child. Ergo, I was a trans child. Like, that is, you know, it's not hard to, like, engage brain and get your head around this. But so many cis people, they don't realize that they're cis. And so they will look around an entire room of decision makers, all of whom are cis, and they won't see the problem with that. They'll be like, oh yeah, everyone in charge of this is just like me. They don't realize that it's like, oh shit, we're all cis. We are making decisions on behalf of the bodies of trans people. That's super fucked up. They don't think like that because they don't realize that they're cis.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think that's true. If anything, I think they also often think like they're almost a better person to make those decisions because they're going to be like unbiased or something, which
exactly because they think that I'm just normal, I'm not biased, and it's like, no man, you are, because you're fucking cis.
Right, it's exactly the opposite. Yeah. Well, I hope that the audience will go and vote and tell us your opinions in the poll. We would love to hear from you. But until then, we have a full list of callers that I would love to bring into the show. So if you're ready, we're going to dive right into it.
I am, yes. I'm sorry I came out swinging at the start of this show. I'm much nicer. Oh, no. I promise listeners, I promise I won't shout at you.
We love it. All right, let's bring in Jackie from New South Wales, Australia. Pronouns are she, her. Jackie, you are live on Transatlantic. What's going on?
Hi, yeah. So I'd like to ask about dealing with conservative Christian family, particularly in, I guess, acceptance of both myself having been raised in that environment, as well as if there's anything I can do to, I guess, soften the blow, so to speak. I haven't told any of them anything yet, but it's something I eventually want to do, but I'm also terrified about losing the relationship or, I guess, having it fundamentally change. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on both of those.
Yeah, I certainly have thoughts. Abby, did you have anything you wanted to jump right in with, or?
I thought so, but I didn't know what the etiquette was. I thought maybe I'd let the host go first.
Sure. I mean, I'll probably pass it to you a lot of the time. I think probably I have questions, first of all, which is, I don't know how old you are, Jackie, and you don't have to disclose that, but my concerns and questions are regarding your dependent. Oh, okay. So you're probably not dependent on your family at this point.
No, I've just about finished university, so financially I'm on the very far end of things. So there's still kind of an emergency buffer, almost, but I don't actually take any money from them at the moment or anything. More just if something happens, I know they'd help.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, everyone's different. Every family is different. I know for me, coming from a conservative, largely Christian family, I approached it with, let me sit you down and have this really hard, difficult conversation kind of thing, right? And I'll say, I think there are drawbacks to that. I think it can sometimes make it seem like a scarier, bigger deal that they have to cope with. I think sometimes not really asking for permission or forgiveness and just kind of like being like, hey, I have something to tell you. I'm going through this thing. It's stating it as a matter of fact. I'm going to be transitioning and I love you and I care about you. And I realize that maybe this isn't, something that you are okay with or that you understand, but I want to leave open a door for conversation so that we can have understanding because I care about you guys and I don't want to necessarily lose such a deep, meaningful connection with my family. I think that's sometimes just kind of laying it out there as a matter of fact like that, not even giving them room for like necessarily like, I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes when you leave open for a family like that, the room for, I want to hear your side of it, you might be opening yourself up to being let down by maybe an inevitability of them having issues with it if they are conservative and Christian. With that said, sometimes that is also for the best. I know for me, I'm recently starting to reconnect with my more conservative family, but I had to cut my dad out for the first 4 years of my transition. And that was largely because of, he had those values and it certainly was difficult, but sometimes that can be empowering to, know you're respecting yourself so much that you won't even be tolerated that way by your family. But this is a difficult situation. And I would love to hear what Abby has to say, maybe some contrast to a little bit more of a bleak picture.
For that, I'll add a little more context. I'm also
Sure.
the oldest of 8 kids. So
Wow.
3 of them are still at home. And I guess another aspect of my concern is, I guess it might end up with people taking sides, possibly.
Yeah, that's never easy. I think Arden's hit upon something very true there, which is that coming out to one's family, it's not a one and done. It's not a kind of, it's rarely a kind of you get a 100% yes or 100% no. It can be the beginning of a process that takes years. I have friends who go through seasons with their family who wax and wane. And sometimes they're like, yeah, I'm talking to my mum again. And sometimes they're like, no, I'm not speaking to them anymore. Going to give them another 3 months. I have a friend who sets a rule with her parents that she does not respond to any messages that misgender or dead name her. And I know that sometimes means she goes a long time without speaking to her family. And I know also that her family feel genuine pain from that. It's difficult, especially when coming out to one's family, when one's family reacts with pain and with grief and with loss. It's very difficult, and I would wish you a lot of love, and I would hope that you bear in mind that by doing this, no matter what their reaction is, you are not a bad person, even if it appears that your family are hurting as a result of something that you have done. It's not what you've done, it's who you are. And if they react to that with pain and with loss, then that's something that they will have to work through. But I just wish you all the courage, because I know it's a very difficult and long process that you'll have to go through. And I would say keep your chin up, I suppose. Good luck.
For sure. Jackie, do you have, I'm curious how strong your community is around you, because I think, something that when I was going through getting ready to come out, my therapist was doing for me was she was always saying, what are your motivations? Because for me, even though I didn't know it at the time, my motivation was I want my parents to say, of course I love you. You're our daughter. we will, take down all the old pictures right this moment, and we'll go take a whole new photo shoot and just rebuild around this. But that obviously wasn't a realistic expectation, right? So it was really, for me, I really learned to build like a chosen family. And it sounds a little cheesy. We hear that a lot, but I think it's really important and meaningful. Without my chosen family, I really think this journey would have been significantly harder for me. So yeah, I'm curious, if you're in university, you probably have like a LGBT support group or something, I'd imagine. Are you interacting with those people, or how's that for you?
Yeah, so I'm not currently, I haven't found any local groups yet that I've been to. I have heard that suggestion though. I have told my best friend, and she's had an amazing reaction. She's been great. And then one other friend, but I haven't really told anyone else yet. I kind of knew that they had a good reaction, so I felt pretty safe telling them. I'm not sure about everyone else, so I've kind of put it off a bit. I'm also still very new still.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not sure there's much more advice that we could offer. I realize this is such a difficult situation, and it's very unique to every individual. So yeah, I mean, guess just, really lean on the people who are around you, and measure your expectations going into this. And if you want, obviously this show is here for, we love to hear return callers. So maybe if things are going good or bad, or you need more advice, we would love to have you call back in and update us on how how everything was going. Oh, did you want to jump back in?
Yeah,
so, I did.
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Becky.
Oh, I was just going to, one other part was, so I was obviously raised in that conservative Christian environment. I guess the other part, I think I still have some hang-ups over that internally, despite having not actually been a Christian now for like over 8 years. Like, for instance, I still don't even swear out loud. So I guess, do you have any tips on overcoming that sort of upbringing internally? Because I guess I still have a bit of this, I'm hypercritical against myself, is how it often manifests for me.
Sure,
that's a big transfer mood, Jackie. Yeah. Welcome to the club. I can't speak as to dealing with internalized religious values, because I've never been an especially religious person. But I can certainly speak to, and I think probably a lot of trans people can speak to overcoming internalized difficulties. I mean, like internalized misogyny for a lot of trans women is a big one.
Oh yeah.
And like, even getting to the stage of being able to come out to yourself, like there's like a lot of hurdles of that to come over, and people and sometimes even ourselves can look at ourselves and go, what do you mean you want to be a woman? Women are the bad one. And it's like, no, it's not. You have to kind of get over that, because we're raised in a misogynistic culture. So I would say that is a very common feeling, and you're definitely not alone in that regard. And yeah, we are all our biggest critics. If you do find a solution to that, do let me know. Call back in and let me know. Maybe Arden can speak a little bit more, because Arden, you mentioned you grew up in a conservative Christian environment. Is that right?
Yes, very much so. I would say that you should be patient with yourself, because I think the way I view this thing, I mean, I'm very involved with the sort of atheist kind of stuff. I think you should prepare for this kind of thing to be like a lifelong process, right? I think you're going to find that quickly it will get very tolerable, but I think you might find that even 10 years down the road, you might have a thought pop up that's like, oh, I feel bad about myself because of this or whatever. And you kind of have to take the time again. And this is, like cognitive behavioral therapy of going, okay, where does that thought come from? Okay, it comes from this thing that was told to me growing up in the church. Do I still believe that? Do I have even good reason to believe that? Is maybe a more important thing to ask yourself. And when it comes to most of the time with a lot of these conservative Christian values around LGBT people, the reason is going to be no, because the only reason you're really going to have is because the Bible said it so here or there, maybe, kind of, or maybe that specific sect of Christianity says so, even though it's not actually even in the Bible. I think working through with cognitive behavioral therapy, exactly where those thoughts are coming from can be a really good start. But also just being patient with yourself, because we've talked before about, callers who say, I'm like a cis person and I know trans people deserve rights or whatever, but I still sometimes get like an ick feeling, right? And something I'll often say to those people is, glad you're working on it, but also have a little bit of compassion with yourself, because you didn't teach yourself that. Somebody taught that to you. And that's going to take time to undo that neural programming. I think you really just got to be compassionate and really take the time every time one of those thoughts comes up, walk back through where that came from, why you feel that way, and if that's actually rooted in reality. Because you're going to find a lot of the time with, like Abby was saying, with misogyny and with transphobia, most of the time it's really not rooted in anything in reality. These are cultural or religious values that we get taught that are actually rooted in like the worth of women, or the worth of trans people. I realize that's maybe kind of vague.
I think.
Sorry.
No, that's helpful. It's helpful to hear someone else say that, because I've kind of had similar thoughts. I think I'm getting a bit hasty, possibly, because having shoved it into a box for over 10 years now that I've accepted it, I kind of want to get a move on. But also, you're right. I probably should give myself a bit of time.
Absolutely.
And it's mostly like internalized stuff. It's not external. I got over that very quickly, I think.
Sure. Well, Jackie, we do have a couple of other callers we need to get to, so I'd love to give you any last thoughts you have to share before you go.
No, thanks for your help. It was good hearing it from other people as well. And I also love what you do as well for the show, so thank you for doing that. I've binged like 6 months worth recently.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you so much, Jackie. I hope we hear from you again.
Good luck.
Yeah, I might call back at one point. Have a good one.
Bye. All right. Thank you so much, Jackie. Nice. Yeah, that was good. It was I like the kind of feel good bonding calls.
Yeah.
I'll remind our audience we're gonna do a couple more calls and then we're gonna move on to the super chat portion of the show. We Abby and I haven't decided on what our battle is gonna be for this week, but maybe it'll just pop up naturally if we find out she I don't know, likes relish mayo and peanut butter or something like that one. The one viewer suggested a couple weeks ago. Yes. I was forced to eat that sandwich.
We don't really have relish in the UK. It's not...
Okay.
We don't relish anything here.
Got it. Yes, so those are super chats, $5 or more. You can send a super chat at the end and we will do all those like little text-based questions. But until then, we still have a couple more callers we're going to get to. So up next is Lily in North Carolina. Pronouns are she and her. Lily. Oh, I didn't hit the button. There we go. Lily, you are live on Transatlantic. How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How are y'all today?
Doing good. What can we help you with? What's going on?
Real quick, before I go into what I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to give the both of you a big thank you, real quick, for entirely different reasons, if that's okay, or I can just move on.
Sure, go for it.
I want to give Abigail a really huge thank you for her last video on the healthcare in UK. I know I am not living in the UK. I'm from North Carolina, but I cried through that whole video, and it just meant so much to me, even though I don't live there. I left you a little comment under the alias Phyrexian Walker, and I just wanted to say thank you for doing that because it meant a lot to me. And I wanted to thank Arden as well as Katy. I wanted to thank Arden as well as Katy because the two of you doing the show helped crack my egg, and so to speak. And that also meant a lot to me.
I'm so happy we could help.
Congratulations.
But anyways, I'll move on. Thank you. I actually, my coming out has been very slow. I actually called this show back in the spring to ask several questions, and I kind of went from, okay, I know this, but I'm not going to tell anyone, to, okay, I'll tell people, but I'm not going to transition, to now I plan to transition. Actually, I see an endocrinologist on Monday.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm actually super excited about
Lucky
that.
cow. Well done.
I guess I occasionally struggle with really intense episodes of what I have started calling imposter syndrome, but I kind of wanted to just call and ask about it a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah.
To give you a little bit of background, and I have a lot of social anxiety, so I'm very nervous, but I'm going to power through this. My father and I have always been very close. He is very liberal, and has been very accepting of me despite all of my quirks. And I never, prior to the cracking of my egg, unlike a lot of other experiences that I hear about, I never expressed it out loud. For me, it wasn't this internal feeling of I'm a girl. It was more like it's too bad I was born a boy.
Sure.
And it was more like this unfortunate, like I lost the genetic coin toss, unfortunately. And I never expressed that to anyone because growing up, expressing yourself in feminine terms was mocked and belittled, especially in the South in the United States. I learned very quickly that if I did anything that was perceived to be feminine or desiring to be feminine, that I would just be ridiculed. And so I didn't. I didn't really even acknowledge it internally with myself until I was almost 40 years old. And so when I came out to my father, he was just like, no. He just said, no, you're wrong. I've known you your whole life. I knew you when you were a kid. And trans people, when they're children, know that they're trans and you didn't. And you are mistaken. I don't know exactly why he's so adamant about that, despite a lot of the things that I've said and a lot of the reasons for that I've tried to express. But he's always been that person for me when I start to, for example, when I just went off to college, I kind of went down this, maybe aliens are real, like aliens as in aliens that have visited us on this planet are real. I've seen some videos that make me think that's a possibility. I watched some documentaries or whatever, and he just had this way of saying, oh, actually, have you considered this? And he kind of had this way of asking the right questions to point me into looking into it some more. But when he did it with this, I looked into it more, and everything I did confirmed what I was thinking. I keep going back to this, like, I must be missing something for my dad to be this adamant about it. And I keep thinking that, I guess my fear isn't that I'm making a mistake. If I make a mistake, I don't mind the idea of exploring my gender identity, and I don't mind the embarrassment of it. My fear is that I'll get really far into it and then realize that I was mistaken, and then everyone around me will just treat me like, oh, you're just another one of those people that was seduced by the trans movement, and that's why this is all wrong. And I don't want to encourage that philosophy, but every time I get in this space where people actually acknowledge my gender and my name, and I don't have to look in the mirror, the euphoria is so strong that it takes all of that doubt away, but then I get back into my normal spaces and everybody that, it all starts slowly coming back until it becomes overwhelming and I have to reaffirm my gender again. And I was just wondering if this is something that is normal, because one thing that my father is correct about is that I didn't say anything, and that confuses me. I barely acknowledged it to myself. I even went to a college that had a very high population of LGBTQ people, and I just didn't see it, and that confuses me. But I'll let you guys talk. I could talk for hours.
Babes, it sounds like you might be transgender. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna, I've known so many trans people who say that, especially here in the UK, where it was, when I was a child, illegal for schools to teach children about the existence of LGBT people. So there was a whole generation, there's a whole generation of people in the UK who were just like, yeah, I never exhibited any signs of it because I couldn't even imagine that such a thing was possible. I tell you this, Lily, I didn't knowingly meet a trans person until I was 19. And she said, I'm a trans woman. And I said, what's that? And it took me years of reading and research and living it and seeing it done in front of my eyes, before I was like, oh wow, that I get it. Oh wait, oh my god. So babes, I think you might be transgender.
Yeah,
for real, that's super common. Don't even worry about it. And also I know what it's like when somebody who's known you a long time goes, no, I don't think that's right. In my experience, the proof is in the pudding. And that if they really love you, when they see that you are happier and they see the real you, it might take them a little while, but when they see the real you, then they'll be like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, okay, guess I was wrong. So yeah, in summation, have fun at your endocrine appointment, because it sounds like you just sounds like that's the place to be.
Yeah, hard agree. I've said multiple times on this show before, but I think if there's one unifying experience amongst all trans people, it's not feeling like you're trans enough. That is it is so ubiquitous. And to be clear, also I've talked about again, I'm always referencing past episodes, my story, whatever. I've talked before. I feel like my feelings of transness did not start in the Kim Petras, Jazz Jennings, I was punching my parents, fighting to be put in a dress kind of situation. For me, it was, I think I genuinely did not realize what it meant to be a boy. And then puberty started and I was like, oh, fuck, that's so wrong. I think there's a lot of people who, I think it's the reason that's become so ubiquitous is because it's easier to sell in 60 minutes, right? Oh, this person was putting makeup on and stealing their mom's shoes from the time they could walk, and that's how you know they're trans.
And also
not
because
the trans experience.
And also because for several decades, if you didn't go to a psychiatrist and tell them that story, you wouldn't be allowed to transition.
Right,
because that was the story that this psychiatrist invented. It was oh, this is what transness is. So the kind of born in the wrong body, oh yeah, I don't know why I chose the name Wendy, but always on my show I say, oh yeah, this is a child. I wore my mother's dress and I call myself Wendy, the stereotypical trans person, trans woman thing. That was invented by fucking psychiatrists to try and keep a lid on us. So I'm don't even sweat it. There's an infinite way. There's infinite ways of being trans because there's as many ways of being trans as there are trans people.
Yeah, and I think I want to really give you what you're saying. When you're with your dad or your broader family and they doubt it, it makes you have questions or whatever. But when you're in spaces where people are affirming your gender, you're like, oh my God, this is so right. Lean into that feeling, because let me tell you that is without digressing again too much about my story, that was what really sold for me oh, this is possible, I can do this, was when I first came out to my best friends in the whole world, who are still my best friends in the whole world, and they were like, oh, we love you, we're gonna support you, of course we're on board for this. That for me, my expectation from what I grew up with, that totally shattered everything for me. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm a woman, I have to transition, because if I can be accepted and loved as me, then there's no doubt what I need to do. It's when it looks like the world is, I'm just gonna see hurdles and rejection and difficulty. That's what made me doubt my transness, not whether or not I felt like that was the right path for me. And that's, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it sounds like you're saying to us, Lily. So I really hope you go to this endocrinologist appointment and you go home with a script and that you are just like walking on air, because that's what really you deserve. And it sounds like that's the direction you're heading.
Yeah, sorry, I missed some of that because I'm driving, unfortunately. I have you on speaker. But I think I caught the most of it. I did want to ask you too, if you, do you have any strategies that you would recommend for when imposter syndrome starts to hit and become rather intense? Like, do you guys have any strategies for helping to alleviate that? You gals, I should say.
I'm not bothered by guys. That's a colloquialism. I think for me, the first few times, kind of like almost we were talking on the last call, I had to work through the whole thing. I had to really reason my way through every step of the way. But after I did that, I kind of put a flag in it, and I was like, when I have doubts in the future, I'm going to remember this time where I reasoned my whole way through it. That way, the next time I have doubts, I don't necessarily have to do every single step of the process. I can be like, oh, wait, I've covered this ground before. I'm good. I'm going to go hang out with my friends, or like, or go get a drink or do something chill that's like very away from these thoughts. I don't know. Do you have any other recommendations?
I mean, I do remember something that a friend of mine told me when I was coming out to her right at the start. And I said to her, like, oh, I'm kind of worried about this. Like, what if it's not real? Like, what if I'm not like, what if it's like, what if I'm like not authentic, like imposter syndrome, all that stuff. And she said, well, do you feel happier? And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, then, yeah. She said, I would rather have a good time by accident than have a shit time on purpose. That's what she said. So if you're miserable like this and you're going to be happier, like doing something else, do the thing that's something else. Like, hang whether or not it's like authentic or whatever. Like balls to that. Like if it turns out it's not authentic, then you'll be happy doing something else, then do that. But like, what do you want? That's the multi-million-dollar question that like so much of the NHS healthcare system in the UK in particular is designed to prevent you from asking. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want a transition? Cool, sick, do it.
Yeah.
If it's safe.
With that, Lily, we do have to get to some other callers, and I see there's a couple there's a spicy call that might take some time. So could we give you a chance to say a last word before we move on?
No, I just huge thanks for the both of you. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Have a nice night, Lily.
I've got someone who keeps texting me during the stream. I'm sorry about that.
No,
shout
totally
out
fine.
to this who keeps texting me. It's just vitally important information. Trying to distract me.
So we have a spicy call on the line. Do you feel like you're ready to take a spicy call?
How do you know it's spicy?
Well, we get a little description. They give us one sentence of what their call is about. And this one says, should women be allowed to speak in public without being harassed and threatened for talking about issues they think matter to them? And I know this caller, and that is pretty much every dog whistle that you think it is. So
caller is Helen Joyce. Welcome to the show.
Well, they probably watch Helen Joyce. Why don't we bring them in? We've got Wes here from London. They
Wes
say any
Streeting.
Pronouns. Wes, you are live on Transatlantic. What's going on?
Good evening. Thanks for the wonderful intro. I think you read out my question there. That's pretty much what I was going to say.
Give it to us. Okay, you don't want to clarify any more specific information?
Yeah, well, just giving a bit more information about that. It's just that I've noticed there's been a speaking tour in America over the last few weeks called Let Women Speak. We usually have it in the UK, but now one of the main people who's gone over there, she's organised a speaking tour whereby women gather in public spaces just to talk about, like a public square kind of situation, just to talk about issues what concerns them. I've noticed there's a lot of angry people. There's a lot of vitriol towards them and so on and so forth. So I was just interested to find out what your perspectives are on whether women who just gather to speak about issues which is concern to them, should they be allowed to do so without having to have a massive police presence and the risk of people threatening violence towards them?
Are you referring to Percy Parker's tour of the US, Wes? That's Kelly J. Keane. That's what I'm referring to. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you knew, but at some of those events, some of the speakers have called for the eradication of trans people and called us monsters. So something I would maybe invite you to consider is that they are inviting violence against us when they speak. So you say, should they be allowed to speak without, people trying to incite violence against them? They are themselves inciting violence against us. Percy Parker has in the past, I believe, allied herself with the Proud Boys, who are a fascist militia in the US, who turn up to protests armed. And I think she has also called for men to bring guns into women's toilets so that trans people shouldn't be allowed to use them. So something I would invite you to consider is that we are not the ones who are inciting the violence here.
Yeah. Let's be honest, Wes. You framed this as, should women be allowed to speak in public without being harassed? That's not what's happening. That is what they like to say is what's happening. But what's really happening is that they are going around doing a tour of harassing trans people, of propagating belief systems. Hold on, Wes. Hold on. I know you love to interrupt, but hold on. They're going around propagating a belief system. Wes, okay. Well, I don't know I can't help you with that one. They're going around propagating belief systems that are meant to spur on legislation that is going to regress rights that trans people have currently. They're not just going around speaking. I don't think anybody is going to oppose women going around speaking in public. That's absolutely absurd.
Unless they're trans, of course.
Right, unless they're trans women, exactly. But what they're doing is trying to instigate conflict. Are you actually going to tell me you don't think what they're doing is attempting to instigate conflict?
Well, I'm just referring specifically to the last. I'm just referring specifically to particularly to the last speaking event, which is held in New York, and there were some very very interesting optics there, which were presented, because we had a scenario whereby you had some metal railings there. And you had a very large police presence, and all I saw was just people just trying to push away those barriers to get at the women. And the vast majority of those people who were doing the pushing and shoving and trying to get at the women who were protected by a lot of New York policemen were men. That's what I saw. And there's also a couple of people I saw in the crowd who were very prominent. You've probably seen them on social media now. There's a couple of models. I think there's one particular model who's been on billboards and so on and so forth. They were very, very vitriolic. This person was very, very vitriolic, threatening violence, threatening to beat a woman's ass. And then even after the event, when the women were being escorted away, this person was going up and spitting in women's faces. Now, I don't know what you think, but the optics to me just look absolutely terrible.
I think, Wes, I think you
can do that.
I think you've hit upon quite an interesting philosophical issue here, Wes, which I'll get to in a moment. Again, though, I just want to invite you to remember that at this event there were speakers calling for the eradication of trans people and calling us monsters. I just want to invite you to hold on to that.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that I didn't hear anybody talk about the eradication of trans people. That's the problem. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation.
Wes. Abigail's trying to make a point. Can you please let her?
I did, in fact, say that because I watched the recording, Wes. But I do think that you have hit upon an interesting philosophical issue here, and one that liberal societies have contended with for almost 100 years now, actually, which is, to what extent do we tolerate fascist speech, and to what extent do we tolerate the actions and speech of those who would destroy the system in which free speech is possible. Now, the people who are giving this speaking tour are trying to create a society in which trans people cannot exist at all, never mind speak. So it's an interesting question. Philosophers call it the paradox of tolerance. Do we tolerate those with intolerant views? And to what extent are we licensed to defend the existence of a tolerant society against those who are trying to destroy it? So I think you've hit upon something very interesting there, which we probably won't be able to solve because philosophers have been debating that one for 100 years. So unlike some of the people in the chat, I'm not just going to kind of shut you down and say, well, go away, Wes. I think you completely rubbish and just shut up. Because I think you have actually hit on something quite philosophically interesting there. But I would invite you to remember that the people who are conducting the speaking tour are trying to put forward and facilitate a society in which people like Arden and I are not permitted to exist, never mind get on a stage and speak. So I would just invite you to consider that and to face the quite difficult question, which you don't have to answer here or even ever necessarily explicitly.
Can I come back on
which
that?
side of that are you on? Because Arden and I necessarily are on the side that we have to oppose people doing that sort of thing.
Could I come back on that?
Of course.
Yeah, go for it.
Hello?
Of course.
Oh,
Hello?
there might be a connection issue. It sounds like Wes can't hear us.
Yeah, sorry.
Wes, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, go for it. We were trying to tell you, go for it. You can respond.
Hello?
Okay. Sounds like
Yeah,
Wes is having some connection
Can you hear me?
issues, so we're going to return him to the queue for now. It's unfortunate. I would have liked to have dug in a little more in that conversation. I appreciate
Big tech silencing feminist voices once again. Sorry,
Yeah,
but it's an unfortunate coincidence.
Yeah, I appreciate your a little bit more measured approach. I've dealt with Wes quite a few times now, and I'm not going to be quite as charitable to him. But there are meaningful conversations to be had here, right? I agree with you. I think there's an interesting line to what extent we can push back on people like this. But I also want to point out that Wes says he didn't hear any of that talking about, the erasure, eradication of trans people. And last time Wes called, he claimed that it was primarily white men who were pushing the trans movement because he didn't see, all he saw was white trans people. Mind you, this was misgendering. And I have a sense that maybe the men that he saw protesting might not have been men, but people that Wes thought he could frame as men and not get any pushback if we hadn't seen the exact video he was speaking of, though I don't know for sure.
The thought had occurred to me. That's why we're a good team, Arden, is because you're bad cop and I'm good cop. And between us, we can silence women, which is what being trans is all about.
Yes, my lifelong goal accomplished. I think. Well, I like to have conversations with people like Wes, and I like to see, where that can go. It's difficult when there are quite clear. Wes clearly has a filter over the information that's being intook, and that is framing every conversation we have with Wes. And it's unfortunate because I think there could really be some meaning. I don't judge anyone who just happens to only have encountered the information about trans people that they've encountered, right? If you are just uninformed, that's not your fault. We can have a conversation on that if you're an honest person. But I don't know if I trust that Wes is an honest caller, unfortunately.
Wes's connection, according to the screener, is cleared up.
Okay, Wes's connection has been cleared up, so...
Or is it someone else's turn? Did Wes have time? I don't mind. It's
Sure.
Can you hear me?
All right, we're going to try Wes really quickly. Yeah, Wes, we're going to have to cut it short because we don't have much time left, but I do want to give you a chance to respond.
No problem. Yeah, because I feel as if I've just been a little bit... misrepresented as I often am when I call in. But I'll just give you an example here. If I could just give you an example here. I don't believe in Islam or Sharia law. I don't hate Muslims and I don't want them eradicated. that's a similar situation, which, you know, and I'm sure most people
That's not
who've got
even
issues
close to similar,
with-
Wes.
Sorry?
Let's let him set it up. Come on.
Okay.
Go on, Wes.
But it's always framed as if people's trying to commit a genocide against trans people, which is absolutely ludicrous. And I don't buy into that. I just think it's absolutely ludicrous. And I'm sure all the women who are at these speaking events are not looking for a genocide either. They're just trying to protect women-only spaces and women-only sports.
Wes,
And keeping men out of women's prisons. That's what they're pushing for. I don't really regard that as being extremely radical.
Wes, my response to that is twofold. Again, I would invite you to please remember that the speaker at this event called for the eradication of trans people and called us monsters. Secondly, my main response to that would be to invite you to recognize, please, that these speakers are not calling for the removal of men from women's sports or women's prisons or women's spaces, but rather they are calling for the removal of trans women from those spaces. We are not, in fact, men, and we never have been. What these people are calling for is a society that discriminates against us.
Yeah, it is a mistake to assume that trans women are representative and cis men are equivalent representative populations in terms of like, you maybe could make a point about men should not be in prisons or whatever, but to then say therefore cis or trans women can't is a mistake. Those groups are not equivalent.
Yeah, I'm lost again. Sorry.
All right. Well,
Oh, wow.
Wes, we're going to let you go since you're having some connection issues. I'd like to take at least one more caller before we wrap up the caller portion of the show. So thank you so much for calling. Oh, sorry. The call-in system's a little funky sometimes. Sometimes you have to hit the button before they finish speaking.
Don't you blame me.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do it.
No problem. All right, so we have to choose one of these two callers. I'm sorry to the caller who we don't choose. It's not a reflection of how we feel upon you. Is we are a limited time and we want to get some good content. I think I would like to take Andy in Utah. Pronouns are they, them. Andy, you are on the line. What is your topic? What would you like to talk about to us today?
So
Hi.
I wanted to say that, as you can probably tell by my pronouns, I am a non-binary person, but I recently had some experiences that helped me get a little bit more of an understanding of where some cis women who are gender critical are coming from when they say that they feel biased by using terms like person with a uterus, person who breastfeeds, menstruates, all those kinds of things. So I have been pregnant. I gave birth to my baby a couple months ago. I'm still on maternity leave. And something that I've realized is that, you know, for a typical female sexed person, it's all intertwined. Like the fact that I menstruate, the fact that I have a uterus, the fact that I can carry is because I menstruate and because I have a uterus, and the reason I breastfeed is because I carried the baby. Like, you know, all these things are interconnected, and I think that when you equate womanhood with biology, when they think that their biology is their womanhood, and all of these things are connected, they equate their uterus and their breasts with being a woman. And so it's sort of like when people call women females derogatorily, saying person with a uterus feels like their womanhood is being reduced to a uterus, which is ironic because I would say that they're the ones who believe that. But I'm sort of wondering if there's any way that we can maybe talk to some of these people who feel that way in a good faith conversation while still recognizing that not all people who have certain biology are a certain gender, not all people of a certain gender have a certain biology, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think, right off the bat, I do have some empathy for what's going on here. Like, I think your comparison to, the use of females in that sort of way is probably apt. I can completely understand why someone might feel person with a uterus might objectify them. However, with that said, I think it's important to notice the context in which these terms are being used, right? Nobody is saying that in society, you as an individual have to stop referring to yourself as a mother and start referring to yourself as a person with a uterus. That is not the claim that's being made. That's not the position that any trans people I know are defending. That is strictly a term that can be used in certain instances with the application of like medical services. With that said, also, I'm totally open to any, a development of language that might be more satisfying for all the parties who are involved. I think anyone who's been paying attention to trans issues for the past 20 years will tell you that the language in this community is always evolving to be more accurate and more inclusive. And I'm sure that this will not be a last stop and for these specific concepts. But I do think it's curious why, the way that, say, a trans man or, another non-binary person some of them might feel excluded by the exclusive use of terms like mother or women when referring to menstruation. Why is it that, their discomfort or their if that impacts their ability to access care and things, it seems like some people would rather value cis women getting to use the term they've always used over the access and comfortability of other people who also need that care. It seems like there's some like unequal application of what matters in the situation going on. But I definitely am open to the notion of this language developing and evolving in a way that is more inclusive and fair for everyone. But I don't know if I necessarily know what the right answer for that is. But Abby, do you have any other thoughts on that?
I mean, I do think you've raised something very interesting there, Andy, which is the viewing of those specific biological features as interconnected, and therefore for one to be linguistically, we shan't say erased, shall we? We'll say for one to be in a situation where it is no longer used because it is not entirely accurate, can feel like a loss of them all. I think you've helped me understand a little bit more there why people feel, my whole self is being erased. It's like, no, we're just talking about menstruation. But if somebody links that to everything else and so much else of what they do and how they view their own gender, then yeah, okay, I can understand where they'd feel a bit like that. Cis people's gender identity is such a fragile thing. I mean, it reminds me of a joke I heard the other day. What's the difference between a trans person and a cis person? One of them knows what gender they are and the other one's a cis person. So, I mean, this is the thing, it's like cis people are the ones who ignore biological facts in order to protect their own fragile sense of gender identity. We're not the ones doing that. That has been pure projection the entire time from the cis, okay? That's my fucking hot take. But I think you've helped me understand a little bit, Andy, so I think thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, how does that all land with you, Andy? Do you have follow-up thoughts?
Yeah, it's sort of interesting where, I am uncomfortable being referred to as a woman, a mother, all those sorts of things. And people, when I was giving birth, were trying to be accommodating, but, they were ignorant and not always perfect. But I guess that's the hard thing is I do want to be not called a woman and not called a mother. But at the same time, always referring to people with their biology is sort of clunky and also kind of annoying. I guess there's no right answer right now is kind of where my frustration is, that there's no good way to refer to people who have, I guess the closest is female, but it's so hard because even sex is on a binary, as we know. So it's just tough how to describe people.
Patients who are pregnant, patients who need natal care. That's gender neutral.
I think all those things are, in my opinion, so broad and inclusive that they seem like they are maybe the safest bet, right, for medical professionals. But I wouldn't deny that it does feel clunky to, string together like a 3-word phrase versus just what most of us have done our whole life, just say that person is a woman, right? But clearly we know that that's not accurate anymore. So like that's the latter of those is not okay. We have to find a way to evolve that language to be accommodating. But it's a difficult situation because I don't. Abby, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to jump in and just say I sort of reminded myself and thought it might be useful. The reason that we want language to be accommodating in a medical setting is not only because it's nice, but also because certainly in this country, there is an ongoing history of trans people being denied medical care. There are like trans men who turn up to gynecologists in this country and are sent away and get sick as a result, and don't get the care that they need. So the reason for this is not only sort of accuracy and comfort and inclusion in a kind of like Star Trek TNG sense that we're all on the ridge together, but in the sense that, it is very much the difference between life and death sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I am fully in support of what evolution of language might, be accommodating of all of these concerns. I really don't know if I have any suggestions or predictions for what that might be. I don't know if saying female is right because, I don't know. I'm kind of in the camp of like, I feel like you can change your sex and your sex characteristics. So it doesn't really seem right to say that. Yeah, it doesn't really seem right to call trans men access.
When the medical forms ask what sex are you, I'm like, female. Fuck you.
Right.
I did not go through all of that shit to be called male. Okay. Read the passport.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I would be interested to see. It'd be cool to see like a sort of a summit of trans masculine medical providers, maybe our very own SDB here on this channel, Student Dr. Ben, coming together to be like, what guidelines can we put forth for the medical community to consider when they're providing this sort of care?
Summoning the ghost of James Barrett with Ouija board.
Oh yeah, consult the Ouija. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see how this would develop, but it's really hard for me to predict in this moment in time. But I empathize with what you're saying. Like, I think it can be clunky sometimes, even if it's more accurate and inclusive. And perhaps there will be a more fluid way in the future. But until then, I feel like all I can really say is, yeah, I get it. I empathize. But I think right now this might be the best we got. And I like to give people the best we got at that point in time.
I mean, philosophers of ethics, and in particular the ethics of having children, have been using terms like gestator and inseminator for years. I always thought inseminator was a little bit sort of like livestock, but gestation, I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else. It always sounded like quite a nice thing, really. But oh well, we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I hope that was helpful, Andy. I realize it wasn't really like a maybe satisfying answer. We were not like, bringing down the hot takes today on this one, but. Yeah, did you have any other thoughts on that?
No, not particularly. So I guess I just hope that we can continue having conversations like this in the community, and maybe we'll be stuck with people with uteruses forever. Maybe not. Who knows?
I think it's unlikely. Language tends to evolve, but yeah, I definitely empathize. Well, thank you so much, Andy, for calling in. We really appreciate the topic, and I hope to hear from you again soon.
Dharma Congelada Tanagra.
Oh, I actually know that reference. Despite not being a Trekkie, my partner has made me watch one episode of Star Trek, and it was that one.
I've been rewatching TNG lately because I spent the weekend with somebody who had never seen Star Trek before, and I was like, what? Come on, you gotta watch Star Trek. So we did. And I've now been just binge watching it because Commander Riker is daddy. I don't even like men, and Riker, I like Riker. So
I feel like that episode is such a good one to get people interested. That was the first one I really sat.
Yeah,
first episode I sat down and
haven't
watched all
shown
the
her
way
that
through.
one yet, but maybe next time she's down, I'll be like, you gotta watch Darmok. Darmok's a great one.
Yeah.
No,
sure.
I put out a thing on Twitter. It was like, which episode should we start with? And we started with Measure of a Man, and then I can't remember what the second one we watched was. But yeah.
Well, here you go. I have a conflict for us for the super chats as we get into the super chat, and this is a little bit artificial because I don't really feel strongly about this whatsoever. But since you are such a Trekkie, we can do Star Wars v Star Trek. You know, if you want to vote for Team Arden, please tell Abby that Star Wars is vastly superior.
Arden. For reasons I can't talk about, I cannot take part in that. I'm really sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, thank you for letting us know. Oh shit! I just pulled out my headphones.
Sorry about that. My agent is just calling me, being like, "Don't get involved in that discussion." Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, gotcha. No worries. Okay, so scratch that. If you're in the audience, scratch that completely. But either way, we're gonna jump into our super tap portion of the show. So, you know the deal. We went through it earlier. $5 or more, we will read your super chats live on air starting now. And we'll take turns, go back and forth. That's cool with you?
Okay, yes.
I'll kick it off.
Unless they're like offensive or anything. Katie looks
who's this loser? 5 pounds from Katy Montgomerie. Katy looks different this week. I know, you're just glowing. I wish Katy showed up looking like this.
Because I got a bad webcam.
Are we gonna pick a conflict? Do we want to try like a pizza topping? What are we doing here?
Do we have a pizza topping thing we can battle about? I don't know, something arbitrary. I don't eat meat, so I feel like I'm hard to. Cheese pizza is the furthest I will go.
Well, wait, Abigail,
I like
you eat
my
meat?
pizzas how I like my women, American hot.
Okay, amazing.
That's what we call
it.
pepperoni and chili in the UK. What is that? What you call it in the UK?
I don't know if we do pepperoni and chili a lot. We definitely, pepperoni is like the universal in the US, but pepperoni and chili is a little bit unique.
In the UK, pepperoni and red chili is we call it American hot.
Okay. All right.
So-
Well, we'll do pepperoni v cheese. It'll be our conflict for today.
I was gonna do Team Arden is Team Veg and Abby is Team Meat, but whatever you want.
Oh God, the vegans are gonna be in the comments again.
I know, but that means they'll super chat for Arden.
There you go.
Vegans are in our comments regardless of if we ever mention veganism. Every
that
show.
Is true.
Not even joking. Every single one. Anyway, y'all can I'll let the chat decide what they're angry about.
Well, thank you so much, viewer Katy, who I don't know who you are. Next one. If you want to read this one. Yeah.
I'm from Sean Isherwood. By Brouwer's fixed point theorem, no matter how much you stir a liquid in a cup, then let it rest, there is always a point exactly where it started. Where what started, Sean?
Sean shares
Sean, this is grammatically what? Is this a riddle? Am I going to win the ring if I solve this? What are you talking about?
Sean always likes to send us complicated math things because Sean knows that I am a math illiterate, basically. So, you know, it's a good fun to make me say math things and clearly not know what words are coming out of my mouth.
I mean, I haven't studied math since I was 16, which was 4 years ago.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much, Sean. We appreciate the donation. Next super chat, we got $5 from Late Halcyon. We're gonna need Abby's stance on mayo before we get too far in. Oh,
in what context?
Sure, yeah. So Katy has a visceral revulsion to mayo, and because I was on the position of like I don't hate mayo, somehow the game when Katy and I are on became mayo versus no mayo. I'm not a mayo proponent. I just don't hate it, but that's the position we're in. So they want to know how you feel about mayo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exactly in agreement with you there, Arden. I like mayonnaise with my chips. I have my chips Belgian style, or
Ooh, nice.
fries, as you say in the US. Yeah. I like mayo. Mayo's good. I mean, I wouldn't have it on pizza if we're still talking about pizza, but
Yeah, I wouldn't do mayo on pizza either. But I mean, like a good garlic aioli is like excellent on a Impossible Burger or something. Oh, delicious.
Nice.
Some
That's how I
Americans,
became trans.
some Americans dip their pizza in ranch.
I do that.
Ooh, what is ranch? Don't tell me.
I think it's like salad cream over there. Isn't that what is ranch and salad cream similar? I don't know.
It's
I guess.
Yeah, I don't really know how to describe it. It's similar to mayo, but like more runny, which is not like selling
Totally
it very
different
well.
taste too, like flavor wise.
Oh, Critical Cupcake says no. Arden, what the fuck? Okay, the people are rejecting my description of ranch. There you go. This one's for you.
Jean-Paul Sartre is at a Parisian cafe. The waiter asks for his order. Sartre says, "I'll have coffee with no cream." Waiter says, "I'm sorry, monsieur, we're out of cream. Can I get you coffee with no milk instead?" Ha 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 ha. Of course, Sartre smoked so many cigarettes, one would wonder how he could even tell the difference. Sartre was once told by a French doctor, "You need to stop smoking or you are going to lose your legs," because his circulation was so poor. And he said, "Can you give me a minute to think about it?"
Oh my goodness. I hope I don't get to that stage. I don't think the devil's lettuce quite has the same effect as maybe cigarettes do on that outcome, but
well, he had this really interesting essay on giving up smoking, actually, where he says he was told by his doctor he had to give up smoking, and he said, "You're not just asking me to give up smoking, you're asking me to give up the whole world, because you're asking me to give up going to the theater where I like have a cigarette during the interval and I think about what I think about the play, and you're asking me to give up eating a nice meal where I eat the meal and then I have a cigarette afterwards and I feel satisfied." And he said, you're asking me to give up sex where I have sex and then I like smoke a cigarette afterwards, and that kind of enhances the relaxation and the intimacy of it. He said, it's to give up cigarettes, he said, it's to give up the whole world. And I was like, oh, that's a very interesting sort of view of addiction. Anyway.
Definitely. Yes, I could have a whole conversation about that. I found that very interesting. But anyway, Thank you so much, Aubrey. We really appreciate the donation. Thank you.
For everyone as confused as Arden when the math ones come up, Jean-Paul is a French playwright. I know because I just Googled it.
And philosopher.
And philosopher.
Apparently.
God, imagine being a philosopher and a playwright. What a fucking nerd.
Wait, this one says The Line, but then
this one's complicated. This one was sent like hours before the show started, so it didn't show up in our queue to put up. So this is how I resolved it.
Okay, so this one's from Philip Leach. Before the show, I'm in Australia and won't be awake for the show, but here's 20 Aussie dollars for getting Abigail. Her last philosophy tube made me cry. I think it's about $2 US or £1 the 20. Well, we appreciate it nonetheless.
It's about $2 US or £2. Quagman TV says, Team Arden, yesterday I had my 1-year MTF HRT anniversary. Loving the changes so far. I'm getting very booby and many more changes to come. Amazing. Congratulations, Quagman TV.
Yes, so happy for you. Thank you so much. And congratulations. Another £5 from Katy Montgomerie. I betted chat that Abby was posher than me. She wouldn't even say fuck, and I lost. Fuck. Very nice. I think we got a couple of fucks in the pre-show too, so maybe y'all are on par.
You promised you wouldn't tell them about that, Arden.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I gave away the secret.
Another 5 from Katy Montgomerie. You're not a real transgender unless you eat your sandwiches dry. Team no mayo, no slime. # real transsexual. I mean, it depends on the sandwich, Katie. I don't think you can have like a blanket rule against these sorts of things.
See, I think a dry sandwich sounds almost as awful as like the worst topping you could put on it. Like, I hate dry bread. That sounds so disgusting to me.
Yes, I don't really eat a lot of bread, so.
I do, unfortunately. I am a slut for the carbs. I must confess.
too.
10 from Connie Ever After. Quick one for Abigail. How's the creative industry treating you? I'm currently talking to agents and in development program as a TV writer. Just looking to see how you found it.
I have a number of things that I can't talk about, but which are very exciting. I may have some filming commitments throughout January, which I also can't talk about. Haven't signed the contract yet. Basically, for all of last week, I was the ball in a game of tennis between my agent and about a big role that they wanted to give me in. So we'll see. And also, I've been chatting to about the possibility of maybe, which is also amazingly exciting. They just emailed me today being like, hey, we've passed this on to one of our execs. Like, we're really excited about this. So that would be cool. And also, I found out today that my play, The Prince, which was on a couple of months ago, this I can talk about, has been nominated for 3 Broadway World Awards. Which, by the way, are decided by public vote. So everybody chat, follow me on Twitter, and at some point in the next few days, I will be tweeting the links so that you can vote to potentially win us 3 Broadway World Awards, because that would be amazing. I'm up against like Helen Hart and Amy Adams for Best Lead Actor. So like, if I can beat those 2, that would be fucking sick. Like, I'm the dark horse in this race, and if I win it, then it's going to be like...
That's so awesome. Oh my God. I'm so excited for you. That's so cool. Yes, fingers crossed for sure. Okay, up next we have wait, did I read the last one? I can't remember.
Oh yes, you did actually. This one's from Carl Ramstad. Gay friend of mine recently told me the trans agenda puts my existence at risk and I don't agree with it. How can a gay man be against trans rights? I think in the interest of time we'll answer this one very quickly by saying because he's wrong. Next.
True. Yep, spot on. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, that's definitely a call one. Call in next week. We got €5 from Yasmin Middleflower. This super chat is written in Mayo. # Team Mayo. Again, somehow, simply by not being against Mayo, I became Team Mayo. But you know what?
But Abigail's Team Mayo too. So like, who do we?
You know, maybe we all get the point. Pass the points around. Socialism of arbitrary point values.
I'll take the point. The cis man will take the point from the trans hosts of the trans show.
Sure. That's fair.
Yep. Seems normal.
Stock and standard. I'm used to that, yeah.
I'll just give both of you 100.
Helen Lawson gives £10 and says the financial crisis here in the UK and around the world must be hard on trans people who simply cannot go home. Yes. Nothing further to add.
Sounds difficult. Oh,
I was
wow.
adding zeros to the score. Sorry.
1,000 points each. We got 1999 from Kelly Ethan. As a teacher, how can I help a trans student whose father is humiliating her in front of the class by ripping off her name tag and insisting she go by her dead name? Oof. This is another one where we are a little bit short on time and sounds like it could be a whole call. I really don't know if I know what your rights as a teacher are in that sort of situation. I mean... it sounds borderline abusive, but I mean, fuck, if you live in Florida, that could be like permitted for all I know. So I wish I had more information for you. I'll try to look up some stuff and you can call next week and maybe we'll have better answers.
You tell your kids, do not record this on your phones and post it on the internet. And I'm telling you that because I won't be able to watch you and make sure you're not doing that.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
So £5 from Missy Prime says, today's my 5th anniversary. I've had so many hate crimes, UK. I never leave my home and now wish I never came out, but I'm still happy with my surgery. Well, hey, that's something. I hope you do manage to make it out and don't get hate crimed quite so much. But the fact that you're still trucking with it, nice.
Oh, yeah, that's brutal. I'm so sorry to hear that, but thank you, Missy. We've got Moshe still has donated to us before, but I forget what the currency is. The shekels, right? 69.90 in shekels from Moshe Jonathan Gordon Radian. Awesome crossover. I didn't want to take the airtime since I raised this here, but I loved Abby's take. I struggle to figure out if euphoric feelings coming from changing my gender presentation stem from presentation of my identity. Sorry, didn't read that right.
That's Huh. Are you so clearly able to separate those two things in your mind? That's amazing. I don't really know. This feels like it could be like a long discussion, which we don't have time for because I'm already running over. But I mean, follow the joy. Like if you're happy, then who cares, right?
Yes, I agree. Also, if you do have to pull out, we are just doing super chats at this point forward, so I will not be upset if you need to split at any point.
No, it's okay. I can stay another 5 or 7 minutes. So it's cool.
All right, we'll power
so
through
€6
then.
from HTP Key. Great to see you on the show, Abigail. Your philosophy channels are very helpful at breaking down complex philosophical concepts. Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
Thanks, HTP. $4.99 from Louise Richardson. I like the current system if it's followed correctly in each state.
Not Louise Richardson, Chancellor of Oxford University, Louise Richardson.
Oh, I have no idea. Call in, because that is definitely potentially spicy.
$20 from Tara Starla. I really resonate with Lily's story. I didn't realize I was trans till mid-20s and was even later to act on it. I overcame imposter syndrome. By remembering the euphoria I felt in the trans headspace, you'll get there. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice message,
thank
Tara.
you. That's a sweet word of encouragement. We've got 5. I don't know that one either. CHF from KKME7. I've been wondering today, is denying trans people their gender nothing but a no true Scotsman fallacy? I feel like I would need a little bit more context to know exactly. Maybe in some instances it could be, but I don't know exactly what you mean here.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how the no true Scotsman's fallacy really applies here. I feel like I might need you to call in and explain what you kind of mean by that.
We've had people say like a true trans person, and that would get into that territory, but I'm not sure on this front. But anyway, thank you, KKME7.
Yeah.
Perhaps a woman saying I'm a woman, therefore I determine who a true woman is. Mayhaps that's what my impression is.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know exactly. It's a little confusing, but
Oh yeah, all I know real woman would be kind of like tall on a real woman, but yeah, I guess, yeah. $10 from James Cole, who says, why does Wes think he has a dog in this fight? I don't know. Wes is concerned about the society around him, and he's trying to understand it. If we're assuming that Wes is sincere, which Alden says that he's not, and I believe you if you've had encounters with him before, but Wes, if he's trying to understand the world, trying to puzzle things out, then great. And if he's not, then fuck him.
Wes is weirdly like bad faith but sincere. I don't know that he's capable of. Right, what I first think though, right, okay, is it's only whites though, right, isn't it? There's only white trans people. That was literally last week.
Yeah, he did do that. I think it's cultic thinking is part of the problem. It creates issues. But then we have £5 from Phoebe J. Rose for some science on trans people in sport. See Hamilton studies from Brighton University comparing trans women to cis women and trans men to cis men. Yeah, I think those studies
they did a whole department about the musical Hamilton. That's amazing.
Amazing. I would love that. I definitely think the data on trans sports studies that separates trans people into their own groups for comparison will tend to get more accurate data than just assuming cis man applies to trans people in this, in the application of this data.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Phoebe.
This one's $4.99 from Stephanie Helms. Also see the scientific literature survey done by the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport, published earlier this month. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Speaking of surveys, if you're in the United States, please take the U.S. Trans Survey. That thing's out, and it's the best thing ever. Please go do that. We'll have Josie on soon to talk about it more.
Yes. Thank you so much. 5 from Alyssa Nguyen. Talking pre-transition, life is often weird. I told a former classmate I sat behind Julie Norris and broke my brain remembering we were sorted by last name. I don't know if I know who Julie Norris is to understand what this might be a reference to. I'm sorry, Alyssa, but thank you for donating. You're always showing up in chat. Appreciate it.
$10 from Eric Johnson. Question for Abby. Way back in the coming out video, you said you'd been performing Philosophy Tube as your old persona for about a year after transitioning. Could you touch a bit on what went into that decision? I wanted to take, I think I spoke about this in the video, in no particular order. I wanted to take time to determine what kind of art I wanted to make about my transition. I wanted time to get used to it for myself. I wanted time to get as much of the legal stuff done as I possibly could. Also I wanted to enjoy it before it became a state of, before my transness became like a public thing and a kind of public property, I suppose. I wanted to take some time to enjoy it.
Love that. I think that's a smart way to go about it. We've got 6969 Swedish krona, I think, from Robin Talstig. Thanks. Yes, nice. Thanks for the great show and the education. I'm super thankful. Hashtag the good cop. Oh, that's definitely a vote for Team Abby for sure.
Okay.
I was the bad cop. I usually am. I go a little harder on the dishonest callers, but that's okay. We need the balance.
I couldn't remember, but it's on there. You both have 1,001 points.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just $9.99 from me and Tyrone. No message. Just
very
cool.
Sweet.
Short and sweet.
Yes, thank you. £5 from Mystic Mind Analysis. Since giving terse and reactionary essays doesn't work, how do we fight Brandolin's Law? Is this a UK thing? I'm not sure if I know what Brandolin's Law is.
I know, I'm afraid neither do I. My response to TERFs and reactionaries is to deny them power. I'm not really particularly interested in persuading them.
Abigail, we have 15 more, and that's if no more come in. Ooh. Are you sure you're good? Do you want to keep going, or
maybe let's do 3 more, and then I really do have to run, I'm afraid. I haven't actually eaten yet. So
when you leave, make sure when you hit X on your machine that you're in a pose that you like, because it's going to freeze frame you there. When you
for a second or two. Yeah.
All right.
I don't remember whose one this was. $5.
I'll just do it. Spectacular Snyderman said, "Holy crap, Katy transitioned to Abigail form this week." Haha, yes, I did. I'm a shapeshifter.
Awesome.
I knew Americans had some ethnic ignorance, but can you really not tell British people apart? Jesus.
Yeah. 669, a nice Canadian from Rebus Wind. Nothing better than showing your loyalty than when someone as amazing as Abigail is here. And I still go for hashtag Team Arden. That's right, Rebus. See, this is why you're the best. We love you.
Banning you from chat.
That's right.
$5 from James Cole. What's the internal temperature of a tauntaun? It's lukewarm. Very well done.
Well, if you want to give any last minute like stuff you want to plug or say or get people excited about, please do. The floor is yours, Abby.
Oh, thank you very much. Please do vote for the Prince and for me in the Broadway World Awards. You do not have to be in the UK to vote. I will be tweeting the link probably several times between now and when nominations close. It would be, for real, it would be amazing and an honor to win. It would also, if the Prince wins Best New Play in the Broadway World Awards, that also puts us in a good position to, potentially take it on somewhere else. Subscribe to Philosophy Tube. Stay tuned to my Twitter, and I will announce other things that I may or may not be in the future that I cannot talk about. Stay tuned and have a very Merry Christmas.
Will you come back?
Thank you so much.
Will you come back even after you've been the main star of clearly a new Star Wars trilogy? I'm getting the hint. This is obviously what's happening.
Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Abigail, for showing up here. It was really an honor for us and for me to have you here, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. That was good. That was a good post.
That's a good freeze frame. Yeah,
excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well done.
All right. Let's finish off these super chats and wrap up the show. $4.99 from Claire. Can Jimmy do the West voice again, please? Also, hashtag Team Arden, because we're like giggling while listening to West. I could relate.
Do you know what? I quite like when that cis man, he's sort of talking during your trans show. I wish that cis guy would talk more. I just feel like I'll resonate with him a bit more, even though he was making fun of me before the show too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard not to giggle at Wes. I mean, the problem is I know when he's saying, there's some men on the front lines, I know what he's doing. So it's hard for me to not laugh because I'm like, wow, you literally can't get through a sentence without being dishonest in your representation of this.
Yeah.
And then claiming I'm misrepresenting him. And it's like, no, I'm reflecting your position exactly how you are, exactly how you feel it is. But anyway, thank you so much, Claire, for the donation. We appreciate it.
Do you want me to join in on the readings and I'll do half of them as in my West voice?
Sure. Go for it. I'm sure the audience will get a good giggle out of that.
I got 669 from Rebuswim. Bellend. I don't know who will read this, but if Abigail read this, Katie will lose a bit. I don't even know what she will lose. I'm just chaotic. Katie really wanted Abigail to say Bellend, or said she wouldn't say Bellend.
Oh,
I think was the deal.
Maybe. I have no idea. But thank you so much, Rebuswind. Oh, that's what Bellend is in there. Oh, I get it. So we got €5 from Thomas Donald Jacobs. U.S. Trans Survey. Love, peace, and chicken grease on bread. Ew. But yes, definitely a U.S. Trans Survey. Go do that. Our Transatlantic's own Josie is I think she's what directed the survey or something like that. So she's put so much work into this. It's so important. Could be one of the most influential studies on trans people for quite a few years to come. So definitely do that. It takes about an hour. It does take about an hour, but it's really important. If you're trans and in the audience, go fill that out. Thank you.
USTranssurvey.org. Trans in the audience and from the U.S. No one else. Only in the U.S. And you only have until December 5th. So please be quick.
Expedient.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
$5 from Aubrey. Hashtag Team Katie because mayo is crime. Sorry, you lovely degenerates, but I cannot.
Luckily, Team Katie's not a fucking option in this episode.
I mean, there's no punishment, so the points are totally arbitrary.
Yep.
Let's just go crazy with them here. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. That's the points.
There you go. Wow. Okay. 1999 from Ramona. Excellent show today, dolls. So question, how do I get people to stop sending me every trans thing they see online? Also, I have to say hashtag Team Abby since your coming out video helped my parents accept my transness. Oh, that's really sweet. I'll have to pass that along to her. Yeah. I don't know. I still get this from some members of my family. Like my grandmother, every time she sees anything about an LGBT person, she sends it to me. And it's because she's trying to be sweet and be like, see, like I understand you. But she doesn't get that it's kind of like telling a person in a wheelchair, like, I know a person in a wheelchair. Do you know them? It's like kind of the same vibes.
It's usually people trying to bond with you. I get 30 TikToks that are responding to Girl Defined a week. I don't give a fuck about Girl Defined anymore.
Yeah. Wow. I get what they're trying to do. I try to put my energy more towards the outwardly negative things. And with that kind of stuff, just be like, it's a little bit annoying, but that also means I don't have to respond to every single one, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks, Ramona. All right, Wes, this is for you.
Right, 669 from Rebuswin. Is a bi/pan non-bi? I've been asked if non-bi can be straight. Made me think, can straight gay people date non-bi? Then I realised why I hate labels. You know, Rebuswin, I saw you mention I almost antagonized you. You chatted in live chat, I wish people would stop treating people with labels and start treating them as individuals. And I almost antagonized you. I was like, but in that scenario, individuals is a label.
Yeah, I get what you're getting at, Rebus. I also have talked about, this is why Katie and I will always do our rant every time this kind of topic comes up about, labels are really only effective in communicating generalized information to people or in communicating or identifying groups that face specific types of oppression. In terms of like reflecting the reality of their lived experience, I usually think non-binary, straight, gay, even like binary trans women, a lot of this stuff is obfuscating if you want to get down to like the nitty-gritty about someone's identity. But most people don't have the time for the nitty-gritty in day-to-day conversation, so they could be helpful.
Yeah.
Shortcuts. We got $4.99 from Claire. Mayo is the main ingredient in ranch. Ah, yes, that's why I thought they were similar. Also, the loser should eat a no-cow bar with ranch and Pop Rocks or licorice. Well, luckily we're not really doing winners or losers this week, so
As you can see,
I
the
don't know what a
scores are
no-cow
tied
bar
up
is, but
at 9
yeah.
repeating. So I don't know what to tell y'all. I should have said on the last one, Rebus, what I think you are frustrated with are people use labels prescriptively when they should only use them descriptively. I think that was what I should have said. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is that one for you, Wes?
I'm so used to watching, this is $5 from Adrian. I'm so used to watching replays that I keep forgetting I can send messages. Hashtag Team Arden, hashtag Team Mayo, hashtag Team Texas except Dallas. I'll add one to the 9 repeating. But actually, one thing I should mention right now, this is huge, by the way. Everybody, please, who wants to support this channel in a sort of way that gives us consistency and an ability to predict, because super chats quite fluctuate, you can now become a channel member. And you can become a channel member by tiers, which are specific to the shows. So there is a specific transatlantic membership if you primarily want to support transatlantic. There are some bigger memberships that support every show, but you can buy the show. This and the Patreon that will be launching next week, which will similarly be set up where it will support the shows and production. If people really want a podcast, this will be imperative to making podcasts, because when we launch the podcast version of The Line, we will lose a ton of money for months at first, at minimum for months. And so we need to offset that by memberships. We will also be increasing the length of slow mode soon. And so if you want to just bypass slow mode, all you got to do is become a channel member. So please become a channel member. Give us money. All right.
$5 Australian from Jacob Adronikos. Thanks for taking my call, Jackie. Oh, sweet. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have even read the other name. Can confirm, set my alarm early to wake up in time from Australia. Hashtag Team Arden for being a regular host, and hearts to Abigail. Yes, thank you so much. I'm sure she appreciates it.
$20 Canadian. Not even real money, is it? From Erin. When watching your recent video, I was struck with how similar your care was to treatment for pelvic pain. And then you mentioned endometriosis. Thank you. Problems with receiving proper care are too common for so many. That's a very sweet note meant for Abigail, clearly. We'll pass it along, I assure you. If I remember.
Yeah.
This might be funnier to read in because it's about UK slang in West voice, but you can do it if you like.
Well, I'm not going to do West voice, but £5 from Missy Prime. By the way, Faniversary is from UK slang where fanny equals women's bits. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I could see Arden trying to suppress a giggle. It's okay to laugh. Hashtag Team Abigail. I actually didn't even know that's what that was referencing, but I'll be honest. Sometimes I feel like I fluctuate from sounding really smart to sounding like a total ditz, because a lot of stuff will not sink in my brain when I read it, and so it goes over my head, even though if you sat me down and explained it, I would know exactly what's happening. It's a problem.
$4.99 from Louise Richardson. Abigail, you asked me if I was the Chancellor on your live stream. I'm a Texan from Austin, born and raised and trans. I had an Aunt Louise. We'll pass that one along as well. I'm going to be just sending screenshots in Twitter DMs later.
Yes, that's right. I actually did know that about Louise too, so I should have been able to remember that in the moment. But $5 from the Espers. Name changes next week. The judge is the husband of Diane Grendel, who is one of the 2 primary sponsors of Ohio SB 454. Wish me luck. Hashtag Team Arden. Yeah, I'm hoping that the judge will... this is a chronic thing I feel about a lot of these people in power. I don't care if you have a personal objection to trans people, as long as you follow the law and don't treat me like I'm breaking the law for existing in a thing that you don't agree with or whatever. Yeah, I do wish for the best for you. That sounds like a potentially really difficult situation.
Alyssa Nguyen says we were sorted alphabetically. For A Win to be immediately before Jay Norris would be unlikely with how common Win is here.
Oh, yeah. And while a lot of people will say that's Nguyen, Alyssa and I have talked about it. And she says that when people always jump in to say that, it's very like white splainy, because that's actually not how it's pronounced. That's like the American piss watered down way to pronounce it. I've looked it up a lot. It's like Nguyen, I think, is kind of how it sounds every time I hear it. I try, although I'm probably not succeeding. Anyway, thanks, Alyssa.
Thanks, Rebus Wind, for becoming a Transatlantic Bestie channel member. That's wonderful.
God, Bestie.
That's the name of that's the name of that tier. I had forgotten when I was plugging it.
I love that.
Is this one me or you? No, this is you.
It's me. 5 pounds from Misty Prime. Bonus super chat to Jimmy for the voice. As a Brett, I approve. I'm crying with laughter. West voice. Yeah, I don't know. Abigail didn't look as enthused while she was here, but to be fair, I'm not sure one way or another. I was just, I was getting a kick out of both of your voice and the reaction.
Raw, okay. I am Wes, everybody. I'm sorry to reveal it. Not really.
Yeah, you've been doing this the whole time.
Oh, this is me,
Please.
huh?
Yeah.
Somebody's saying one of their accounts got blocked. I'm trying to figure out why. Abby's video. Okay, this one doesn't make any sense, and also that was a bad Wes. I lost it for a moment. What I'm just saying is Abby's videos help me organise thoughts early and understanding of my trans identity. Arden, Katy et al. Brought much warmth and a growing sense of groundedness in my experience. Thank yous. Love y'all, innit?
Oh, yes. In it, indeed. Thanks so much, Mocha. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, everyone notice how Rebus now has like a special color and badge because Rebus became a channel member? Like,
Wow.
Clearly they're just I don't know Rebus's pronouns. They're just favored in the live chat. They look so good with that nice badge and that nice color and this, it supports production, but it also supports the host. It keeps the show going. We're going to get that podcast once we have enough support to cover all that. Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I wish I had one of those. Maybe I'll have to go become a member so that I can have that awesome color and special thing. And Reba says their pronouns are they.
Awesome. Awesome.
Nailed it anyway. That's why they, them is always a good default.
That's right. I like that universal. There are no more, by the way, if you're wondering, like what.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was the last one.
I was wondering, but that's okay. We're good. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This was an awesome show. It was genuinely such a huge honor to have Abigail on the show. And I hope we can get her back in the future. I hope we didn't scare her off or anything. As always, thank you to the mods and thank you to Jimmy for his West impersonation. I don't really care about the production that he does. That's but thank you so much for everything else. With that said, I've got to go feed a bunch of snakes, and I hope you all have a wonderful night, and we'll see you all next week for hopefully Katy's return to Transatlantic.
Don't leave during the outro. Thank you, Michelle, for becoming a bestie. Okay.